December 1872, the Atlantic Ocean. A ship is found, drifting alone. Its sails are set, its course is steady. Nothing appears wrong, but there is no one on board, no crew, no captain, no passengers. They didn't leave in chaos. They didn't leave in fear. Everything is still in place. So the question is, why did they leave at all? The name of the ship was Mary Celeste. It was found near the coast of Portugal, drifting in the Atlantic between the Azores and Gibraltar. The ship that discovered it was called Dei Gratia. At first, it looked like a damaged vessel, but not a sinking one. The hull was stable. There was water in the hold, but not enough to threaten the ship. The sails were worn, some of them torn, but still functional. It was still moving. And that's what didn't make sense. A ship that could sail, left behind in the middle of the ocean. The crew of Dei Gratia called out across the water. They waited. They listened. Nothing. No footsteps. No voices. Only the wind and the sound of the sea. So they crossed over and climbed aboard. And in that moment, everything changed. Because what they found was not a disaster. It was something far stranger. Inside, everything was in order. The table set. A half-finished meal remained in place, as if someone had stood up and never returned. Food still there, water untouched, personal belongings exactly where they should be. Clothes were folded, tools were stored. Nothing was missing, nothing was out of place, no signs of struggle, no damage that suggested violence. It looked frozen, like a moment that had been interrupted, and yet no one was there. The only thing missing was the lifeboat. But there was no reason to use it. The ship was not sinking. It was not burning. It was not under attack. It was perfectly survivable. And still, everyone was gone. The captain's log was found. Its entries were calm, routine, carefully written. The weather was normal, the sea steady, the journey uneventful. Coordinates were recorded, distances carefully measured. Everything was as expected, nothing unusual, nothing alarming, until it stopped. The final entry was dated November 25th, not far from the Azores. After that, nothing. No warning, no distress signal, no change in tone, no indication that anything was wrong. Just silence. Not the kind that fades, but the kind that feels suddenly cut off, as if something happened between one line and the next. And whatever happened after that moment was never recorded. Not a word, not a signal, nothing. There were 10 people on board. Captain Benjamin Briggs, an experienced and cautious sailor. 7 crew members, carefully selected and trusted, and his family, his wife and his young daughter. This was not just cargo. It was a shared journey with structure, discipline, and control. Nothing about this voyage suggested danger, which makes one thing clear. Leaving the ship was not a careless decision. It was not confusion. It was not sudden panic. They left behind food, water, and safety. A ship that could still sail. In the middle of the ocean, people do not abandon a working vessel without a reason. So something changed. Something strong enough to override judgment and force them to leave. Over time, many explanations were proposed. One theory was a gas leak. The ship carried over 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol. Some were later found empty, A leak could have released fumes, invisible, unstable, and highly flammable. Even without fire or smoke, the threat alone could have been enough to trigger fear, enough to make them believe the ship might explode. So they may have escaped temporarily into the lifeboat, planning to return, but something may have gone wrong. Another theory was piracy, but nothing was taken. Cargo remained, valuables untouched. No violence, no signs of intrusion. Mutiny, no evidence. Natural disaster, a sudden wave, a sea surge. But the ship remained intact, still floating, still functional. Every theory explains part of the story, but never all of it. And at some point, each one fails. The investigation found very little. The ship was nearly intact. There was water in the cargo hold, but not enough to justify abandonment. Some navigational tools were missing: the sextant, the chronometer, items needed to guide a smaller boat. And the lifeboat was gone, lowered, not destroyed. But that alone explains nothing. And the most unsettling detail, no bodies were ever found. At sea, that can happen. Waves erase, time removes. But here, it feels different. There were no signs of struggle, no evidence of injury, no indication of chaos. Not like they were lost, not like they drifted away, but as if they were taken, removed from a ship that remained behind, without a trace, without a sound. The case was never solved. No official explanation was ever confirmed. The ship remained, recovered, documented, studied. But the people were gone, completely. And the moment they disappeared was never seen, never heard, never recorded. Something happened on that ship, something no one witnessed, something no one survived to explain. And whatever it was, it left nothing behind. No signal, no warning, no trace, only absence, and silence that has lasted for over a century, and a question that still remains. The ocean does not keep records. It does not explain. It only takes and leaves silence behind. The Mary Celeste remains. A ship found adrift, a story without an ending. So the question remains, where did they go? And why would anyone leave behind a ship that was still alive, waiting in the middle of the ocean?
This story ends here, but in the darkness, stories remain. Will you stay for the next one? Dark Case Hub.